Okay, so I'm recording and then I'm going to do Facebook. It takes a while for the Facebook to load up.
Not a worry.
Okay.
I forget that my disheveled, live in a cave look is it's recorded for all to see in all prosperity, right? So.
No, you don't look disheveled. You don't look disheveled. You have a shirt on. Doesn't have anything nasty on your shirt, right?
The bar that you set that maybe be set now.
It's where I am. It's where I am.
As long as you don't have your PJs on.
So you're saying don't stand up then, Paul.
That's right.
That's what you're saying.
Right.
I understand. Let's move this all around so I have everything where I need it.
Okay, let me get rid of that.
It's good to go.
Here it goes.
All righty.
How many people? We're 26 people.
It's always a party.
Oh.
At times, I long for the days of two. Yeah. It was a simpler time.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, for the simpler times, I say.
Yeah. Makes for some kind of restless nights when you're thinking about things just rolling around in your head. Like,
Yep.
gee.
And if it was only one thing that was rolling around in my head.
I know.
How simple it
So
was.
much to absorb.
But that's why we have the Dennises and the Gavins of the world, right? And the Alexes, and, the Ralphs, and Krista. It rolls around in their head, so it doesn't have to roll around in yours.
We're not reading our favorite novel, but the Traffic Study.
That is my favorite novel.
Yeah. Little cars going by.
My only problem is, where's chapter 11?
Yeah.
Right. Well.
And that's not code for anything. That's just literally like, where's chapter 11? I think the last time I said something was taken as code to mean something else. So.
I'm fond of recent statutory activities, actually.
All right, we have everyone in.
Yes.
All righty. Let's call the meeting to order at 7:04. We can hit a roll call and move ourselves forward.
Council Vice President Diane Law.
Here.
Council Member Kevin Collins.
Here.
Council Member Matt Castiglia.
Here.
Council Member Norma Greco.
Here. Sorry.
Thank you. Council Member Adam McDowell.
Here.
And Council Member Valerie Renthaler.
Here.
Mayor Paul Gamrat.
Here.
And of course, President of Churchill Borough Council, Jay Dorn.
I am here, and in the truest form, Norma, while you were muted, I said, "Oh, she's muted. She'll unmute," while I was muted. So
I've been on Zoom since 2 o'clock, so I'm a little wary.
This is not. Yeah, we get over Zoomed. I completely get it. So welcome to February on a that wonderful moment when the first Monday is the first of the month, so it comes quick at you. We're going to roll right through this. We head into to begin with the space of comment. I would ask everyone, if you're not speaking, to please mute. That way we don't have any kind of background noise or anything coming through there. So this time,
What is
the mute button bottom left generally. And so this time I'm going to ask if there's any residents who want to speak. If you will be given up to 3 minutes to speak, you state your name, address, and I will call on you. If you click on the participants at the bottom there, it will give you the option to raise your hand. and then I'm able to see the raised hand, and I can select you from the list. If you're unable to find that, if you physically raise your hand, I will look for you and call you after I go through the raised hands. I see you raising your hand, but I'm going to go through the raised hands on the right side first. I totally gotcha. And then once I've done that, I will go through people on the phone if they're unable to do either. To begin with, first raised hand I see is M. Bilby, Comcast.net. So if you want to unmute and state your name, Jess, you are free to speak.
Can you hear me there?
You are? Really, how's it going?
It's doing very well. All right, so I got prepared a few things I wanted to mention tonight. I am Murray Bilby, 2424 Churchill Road. I tried to limit my comments to 3 minutes, but the logical sequence extended to 6. So if council allows me the full time, it'll make a lot more sense. And if not, I'll just stop at the 3 point. You let me know when, and then I'll post them to the churchillfuture.com website. It's got far more details than what I have here. This concerns the Hillwood proposal for the 3.6 million square foot, 12-story high distribution center. I want to state up front, I am not against development of the Westinghouse R&D property. I am only against the current proposal. I am not against Hillwood, only this proposal. And if Hillwood comes back with a proposal more in line with the objective of the borough, I would most likely give it support. Now, I wrote a letter to all the residents of Churchill, which due to the 40-page length and all the graphics, I ended up posting it on a website called churchillfuture.com. I forwarded it to the council so each of you are aware of it. The churchillfuture.com site, it's got a lot more detail about the proposal, plus there's a direct email address. Send me for confidential comments, additions, subtractions, just read it, all right? We, as citizens, have got to be informed by the facts and not our emotional reactions. This project will destroy the current Churchill residential community. There can be no justification for destroying the community, chasing some vague new revenues that cannot possibly offset the totality of the negative consequences in the declining property values or the quality of life. If after understanding the scope of this proposal, it doesn't scare the bejesus out of you, then you are truly not aware of the negative consequences to you personally as a resident or to the community as a whole. Hillwood's pushing this through following a time-tested sequence explained in the letter. Its interaction involves omissions, distortions, deflection of obvious questions. But this is normal developer procedures. It's no surprise. It's a business, pure and simple. And they will do whatever is necessary to construct the largest possible complex, regardless of the local resistance. If the rules say a building can be 120 feet high, then that building will be 120 feet high. That's how developers think. They work to maximize within the rules. It is the responsibility of council to set the rules in the best interest of the community and stick to them. If, after studying the Hillwood proposal, I thought we might be able to influence it, that would have been my suggestion. But the proposal, it is so massive, excessive, damaging to Churchill and the surrounding municipalities that I feel it must be rejected and the process re-examined. Make no mistake, the $300 million they claim to be investing is peanuts compared to the amount of money that they're going to make ramming through this project. A building with a roof long enough for a crop duster airplane to land and take off that offers 3.6 million square feet of warehouse space. And we're talking floors 23 to 40 feet high, not 10. It's huge.
So that is time. I appreciate your comments. So you can post the rest, and certainly we'll let people know.
All right, thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate your comment. Moving up next is Mr. Balke.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. I'm actually reporting on behalf of the Churchill Tree Committee, not rather than an individual resident, but I'll keep my comments within the 3 minutes. Just want to update you on the work with the tree planting with the Woodland Hills School District. I live at 2007 Hampstead Drive here in Churchill. Been working with a group here for almost a year. We toured 5 school sites, including the high school in Churchill, and it works out Tree Pittsburgh, who's a partner in this effort, came back 2 weeks ago with recommendations on where to plant trees on all 5 school sites that make up the school district. And it works out that the total number of trees recommended is 313, with 209 of them being planted at the high school. The Tree Pittsburgh has a grant from the Allegheny County Health Department to plant 200 trees dealing with air quality issues. But also the trees interact with the climate action in terms of absorbing CO2 from the atmosphere. But the grant only covers 200 trees, and actually what's recommended is 313. The plan was reviewed by the head of facilities, Robert Finney, is in charge of all the facilities, and Mike Belmont of the school board, representing the school board about a week ago. And the recommendation that's been made has been acceptable. A meeting is going to be held with the school board at 5 o'clock this coming Wednesday. It's a normal meeting where the facilities director meets with the school board. This is not a school board general session, but I got invited to attend because I've worked with the team and have put a write-up together about why the school district needs to plant this many trees, including Churchill. And so in order to plant 313, we're going to be looking for some extra funds. And that's what we're going to be talking about with the school board on Wednesday afternoon. I have been working closely with the mayor, with Diane Law, and and Alex Graziani, our borough manager, on this effort. And I also like to thank my tree committee members who've been in contact with as well. But I just want to let you know of that development, that we're at a point where it's actually at the school board for for approval. And it's one of the more positive things I think that have happened in the district. And Churchill, we really stand to benefit significantly from this, with having 200 trees within our borough.
Excellent. Thank you, and thank you to the tree committee for all your hard work. I know how dedicated you guys are. I think we all know that, and we appreciate it. And you continue to come back with good results. So thank you again.
Okay, you're welcome.
Moving to Jim Harshberger, please.
Okay, my name is Jim Harshberger. I live at 319 Homer Drive. I'm talking predominantly about the letter that Murray Bilby wrote to you folks. I just found it yesterday, and I was very impressed with how well organized it was. And I hope that our borough leaders look and read that letter seriously. It brings up a lot of really good points. And I don't know Mr. Bilby. I've never met him. I know where he lives. I've admired his house many times driving past it, but I don't know the man, so I have no interest in promoting his letter at all. A couple of questions I do have are, what kind of long-term legal responsibilities are Hillwood / Churchill Creek and future tenants going to have in regards to things like maintaining or keeping the 20-acre green area that they mentioned at the last meeting that I heard that they talked about, that they were going to leave it alone. Also, I'm curious as to what kind of tax breaks they are going to get. Usually when a big company comes in, they get phenomenal tax breaks, like for 10 years. And I'm thinking of what happened in New Stanton with Volkswagen and Sony. When the 10 years was up, they left. And God knows how many how many jobs left the area almost overnight, because when they quit getting a free tax break, they were gone. and I'm just curious as to what kind of breaks we're looking at, Hillwood or whoever is in the facility are going to have. That's really the only things that I had. Oh, the other thing I was wondering is how we can get this letter that Mr. Bilby wrote out to more people, because I know there's loads of residents in Churchill who are not even familiar with the next door site to access it, or that they don't even know. I mean, even if we just send them, if there's any way that we can send out a cover letter to residents, not the whole 35-page thing. That's about it.
Excellent. Well, thank you for your comment. I'll just say briefly, I can't speak to the 10-acre, the issue with tax breaks or no tax breaks from the borough of Churchill related to that site. And then just so that you know, and this goes to any resident, you know, the council and the borough are not going to promote any particular individual's position. That's not appropriate for us to do. So whether it's Mr. Bilby or somebody who's completely for it or anybody else, that wouldn't be appropriate for the council to be promoting a individual's position, just to kind of put that out there so that you know. But I do thank you for your comment. I'm going to move forward. I don't see any other hands. I know that I had a hand. I know. I got you. I got you. I did not forget you for 1 second. I looked to my right and I had the list of participants first. So please feel free to unmute, state your name, address, and it is yours. Yes, I am actually speaking. I think I just had Skagna. So sorry. So you're unmute and the floor is yours. There
okay,
you go.
can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I've prepared a few comments and I hope I'm not gonna go over the 3 minutes, but okay. Hello, my name's Joanne Skanga. I live at 30 Churchill Road. My husband and I have lived here for over 30 plus years, raised 2 daughters. I have some real concerns about the impending Hillwood project and would like to discuss them with the group. Please note that I am not against progress or developing the former Westinghouse site. I have what I strongly am against is the project is the size and scope that is being peddled by Hillwood. I have had the opportunity to read the very professional presentation that Mr. Bilby wrote. He should be commended for taking the time to analyze many aspects of this project. Like him, I am not opposed to redevelopment or any of the development, but thinking that you can put a warehouse of 900,000 square feet with a total footprint of over 3 million square feet in a residential neighborhood is just ludicrous. I expect our elected officials to protect the integrity of the borough and the livability of the borough. Make no mistake, this will change the livability of not only Churchill, but the surrounding area. We are not a blighted community, nor is the Westinghouse site a blight. However, Hillwood has allowed that verbiage to be used to describe our neighborhoods. While I realize the project will go through, I am here today to discuss minimizing the scope and the size to protect the integrity of the borough. Personally, I don't believe Hillwood. I'm probably in Mr. Bilby's court there, period. They have all the right answers, fancy presentations, offer of money, it's gamemanship. They want the maximum for the least amount of expenditure. They don't care if their project will disrupt our community, our way of life, our green space, our air, our traffic conditions. They are proposing 24-hour, 69-bay truck stop, for lack of better description, 69 bays. Do you realize how big that is? They have asked for zoning considerations. However, we have not seen a final rendering of what they are really proposing, what their building will look like, how bright the lights will be, how much noise we'll have to endure, traffic, etc. My husband and I own a medical business. Our office is in Greensburg Pike. I live here, I work here, I shop here. I have been in the medical field for over 40 years. I have consulted with hospitals on mega million-dollar projects. One constant when hospitals are looking to evaluate a project, a process, a project, or building, etc., is they do a site visit to another hospital who already has the program or project or building that they are looking to also purchase or evaluate. They do their due diligence. Due diligence is completed before any final approvals are given. I think of our former councilman, Ray Jurowitz, at a time like this. Now, I didn't always agree with Ray. It was love-hate, trust me. When recycling became a hot topic, what did Ray do? Ray took the initiative. He rode on a garbage truck to evaluate the service, the process, the program. He visited the plant. He went to other communities to talk to their elected officials on how the program was perceived. In other words, how could he make our recycling program successful, or should it be scrapped?
So that, unfortunately, that's time. I'm only allowed to kind of 3 minutes. I appreciate your comments. You know, having been on council with Ray and working with Ray to do the recycling all the way through, I appreciate your particular comment of Ray. I worked a long time with him, and we rode many garbage truck and did many a presentation. And so, quite frankly, this is a similar space and like 30 times, 300 times the size. So I appreciate your comment. Look and see if there are any other comments via phone. If you want to unmute yourself, or if anybody else on the side has a comment, if they want to raise their hand.
Dave?
Yes.
Hey, April
Dave,
Klein would like to make a comment.
Hey, this is April Klein. I don't have a camera on my computer, but I'd like a couple. I live at 18 Holland Road. I did talk to Joanne earlier today, and I just want to finish a thought for her. What she was talking about, Ray driving with garbage trucks, Joanne wanted to ask if anybody from council had actually visited the Hillwood site. I know both Joanne and I have spent a lot of time online looking at Hillwood development properties. They're huge. They have minimal landscaping. They are plopped down in the middle of either an industrial site or a rural site. The scope and scale of this project is not appropriate for Churchill Borough, and we want both of us to thank Murray for his excellent presentation. I'm really concerned because I talked to a member of the tree committee who told me that over 1,000 trees on the eastern section of the property are going to be taken down and a 50-foot wall built. I'd like to see a rendering from Hillwood, what exactly the view is going to be for people living on Beulah Road, Old Beulah Road, Holland Road, and Churchill Road. I think it's going to look like the Shop and Save wall on Route 22. That's inappropriate for a community, residential community. If you look at other Hillwood projects, they do minimal landscaping. I know Mayor Gamrat had brought up what type of trees are they going to replace, saplings or large vegetation. Look at all the other Hillwood projects. They are not in residential areas, and they look like they're dropped from outer space. That aside, many of us are against the Hillwood project. As it stands, we're not against future development. We are concerned about the quality of life in our community. I'm also concerned about the rain garden at the Borough Building, which is going into its third year, and I'd like to ask Council for a modest budget to increase some plantings up there. Some of you know I belong to Churchill Garden Club, but I'm also in the Forest Hills Garden Club, and we are ordering plants for Forest Hills Borough wholesale right now, and I'd like to order some for Churchill Borough, and I will talk to Alex about the budget for that. In addition to the lack of a tree canopy at the Westinghouse site, I'm concerned about the potential loss of tree canopy at the Schaefer School site. And I understand there's going to be a planning commission meeting on the 3rd regarding approval for development at that site. It seems like we're losing an awful lot of trees and green space throughout the neighborhood, and it's a real concern to me and to many other members of the community and to the garden clubs. And actually, I think that'll be it for tonight, Jay. You'll be happy to know I'm done.
Always happy to hear from you, and in particular the references back to Ray. You know, it's a good guy, good, you know, and a big loss to Churchill still. But I will just speak for myself very quickly and say that I have been out more than once to look at the Findlay site. It seemed like something that I would do in my own time to make sure I have an idea what it looks like, what the size and scope of it is, and even though it's not quite the same as what we're talking about here, quite frankly, you know, much like driving on a truck, I think it's the responsibility that we have an understanding of what it is that we're talking about. So I'm not going to go any further into that, but I did just want to comment with that. Is there any other comments in the space? I will kind of see what we've got, and if not, I will move forward. I try to give people a couple extra seconds. I never know if it's difficult on technology sometimes. So if you want to raise your hand, you can go to participant and then choose raise your hand on camera, and I will call on you. Or on the phone, you can unmute yourself. Otherwise, I am going to move forward. All right, so seeing none, thank you all for your participation and your comments. They are meaningful and important to us as they are to you. This moves us on, just making sure everybody did receive the draft of the meeting minutes and the workshop. I don't know if anybody had any council questions on it before we move forward. Anybody have any questions or discussion they want to pose on the reports or minutes? I see a lot of still on mute, which generally leads me to believe that there's not a lot to say in that space right now.
Well, Mr. President, here's one comment. Looking at the minutes, I noticed that our borough manager has increased the comment section as to what goes on in those minutes. So when they're made publicly, the residents can more understand what was going on. And in particular with the mayor's report, I did notice that there were more items listed on those minutes that make it a little bit more relevant. Thank you for that.
Not a problem. I continue to appreciate the kind of improved access to information that we're seeing and the organization of the information. So that's both a thank you to Krista and to Alex on that space. Okay, without anything else there, in the committee report space, I know I wasn't clarified as to written or verbal, so I kind of let it ride for this month rather than have some people do it one way and some people do the other way. I don't know if anybody has any comments that they want to make regarding any committee meetings they have. And then starting next month, I think we'll just do it as a written report to ease it in. But I don't know if there were any comments anyone wanted to make other than the fact that folks are trying to get meeting and get ourselves going.
Jay, I just want to comment that our ad hoc meeting for the infrastructure met, and let's just say that we're really looking forward to the planning committee meeting this Wednesday to see what else has been resubmitted. On the finance committee, there'll be a further discussion later on tonight about the bill paying process, and I'm going to want to meet with the finance committee, Adam, you and Valerie, sometime later this week to discuss further. So that's it.
Yeah, I have just a quick thing about the zoning committee. The zoning committee met last Thursday, and we are on fast track on the backyard chickens ordinance, which is currently being reviewed by our solicitor. And our hope is that we will have a final draft, maybe even in time for the council meeting on Monday, but we're working diligently on it. So for those folks who've been very interested in that topic, it's moving. So thank you.
And we are ending with it with a generally positive position as a recommendation, or where are we looking at here?
Positive position on recommendation. Yes.
So how I will phrase it. As I speak, I used to, expect projectiles thrown at me from Gavin. So now I just have to like look over in the Hollywood squares to see if he's making that face that he likes to make when I say the wrong thing. So
no, we shall have chickens. we shall have chickens.
The word of the day is sunny side up.
I'll go with that. I'll go with that.
Couldn't help it.
Yeah, it was better than I'll spare myself the hatred of the chicken people before I say anything else. So, okay. What other comment? I think management and government met together to kind of start the framework of where we're going. Kind of outlining the space. key issues on the table are essentially kind of check in with the management themselves and addressing the issue of the technology space of the website. And I've spoken with as well Alex in that space to really talk about kind of moving that forward. So I think that's something that will get pressed forward. Anything else that people have to comment on as I listen to my daughter in the other room screaming something at her iPhone?
Jay, just the infrastructure committee did not meet, but we're planning to meet mid-month. I did talk to Alex about the ongoing projects that we have being coordinated by our engineering consultant, the upcoming paving program, and then long-term, we're going to be looking to, lay out some hopefully, 5 to 10 year plans for borough infrastructure and ongoing, projects.
Jay, the ad hoc site plan committee met, and I think we had a productive meeting. Adam produced a document.
Yeah, I think Alex added that to the packet. We had a number of questions. We're looking forward to seeing more plans from Hillwood.
Yep.
That is the summation of the ad hoc space overall, right?
Matt, did you want to comment on the traffic committee, the ad hoc committee we met the other day, last Thursday?
Yeah, similar. We had some good discussion. At the end of the day, the I guess concerns that were also raised by the reviews by our engineering consultant as well as PennDOT, et cetera. It's about some of the assumptions that were made in coming up with the facility size, parking, et cetera. And we're hoping to see some additional movement and backup, in the next submission, which we've been told to expect coming up here.
Good, thank you.
Alrighty. Any other in that space? All right. The summation of that is there is a lot of work that we are all trying to do in a lot of different spaces. It's really interesting time in Churchill is how I will summarize that from a couple years ago when there was just nothing to do. I think this moves us on, unless there's any further discussion, on to exonerating the tax collector. Just make sure we're all clear on that. That's why I normally ping Alex to give a quick brief, and then we move forward. So Alex, you brief out on how we move over from tax collector.
Or this item and the next item are somewhat together. Annually in February or March or January, this resolution is before the council, and working with the solicitor, we'll have a resolution for your consideration next Monday at the regular meeting.
Thank you. So that's also me yelling at my daughter to turn on her phone at the same time. So it's the magic of our reality. Any kind of questions in the space? It is kind of an annual space. Anything from folks? New folks? Old folks?
Well, the orders are the same, correct, Alex? I just want to make that point.
Yeah, staff is recommending, since Mr. Doring served for, I think, 18 years, it would be good to have an audit as it switches from one to the other. Is something is a best practice for local government. And seeing as overall the savings is about $4,000 from where we're going to the new direction with Keystone Collections, we'll have the available funds, therefore, to complete the $1,200 estimated price of the audit using the borough's auditor. And that would be in a form of a resolution next Monday for your consideration.
So in other words, Alex, this is a separate audit than the year-end audit that's always done?
The year-end audit kind of relies on the numbers that he gives us and allows us to move into the delinquency phase and move those on. So that's standard that you do. This is a little bit more additional depth and detail related to the past year and then going back so that the books can be better transferred into the future.
Any other discussion on the issue? All righty. Moving on to the next. I'm going to keep Alex on the hot seat for a minute. These get to remain his topics of the day.
Well, again, number 7 is to discuss the Keystone Collections as the delinquent real estate tax collector. As we discussed, we actually had a proposal in last January's regular Borough Council meeting, and Krista's updated those, and those are in your binder as well. She did 2 things. She did one, which is the spreadsheet to show you the savings if we consider their offer to be our delinquent tax collector, as well as the proposal is also in your binder, and we're looking for that approval next week. So between now and then, if council has questions or if there are issues related to that the solicitor finds, we'll raise those next week.
And this just brings both services under one roof in that space then, right?
Yes, sir.
And then that's where we find our savings. So any other discussion people want on this one? All right. The magic of infrastructure starts to creep its head in our agenda now. So we've got these 2 that were in terms of paving. Alex, that was put on by Ralph, correct? And then if you want to talk a little bit about 8 and 9, as we talked about in terms of the additional roads and the sanitary and storm sewer projects.
During the discussion for the 2021 budget, it was really clear from council that any increase in taxes would go entirely to the paving program and to the storm sewer projects. And in that end, Ralph has reviewed, as he annually does, as our public service director, the road condition within the borough, and has recommended that Woodland Hills Drive, the entire road, and Jamestown Place from Hollywood Drive to the borough border be bid for paving. These would be basically 3-inch mill and overlay with some estimated cost built in for patch repair or spot repairs, depending on the conditions that we find. So you'll see their estimated total price with the contingency and a total cost of $283 for the paving program. One might ask, well, doesn't this give potential pavers the target to shoot for so that they just bid to that amount? I guess they could see it that way. They run the risk, however, of another vendor coming in and undercutting them with a better accurate cost. So what we found in the past is this cost and even the cost that's awarded isn't always necessarily paid out because we tend to be generous on estimating potential cost of repairs. If you recall a few years ago, there was a borough road that had to be almost entirely rebuilt, and it really blew our budget related to road paving. And we learned a lesson from that, and that is to add additional cost estimates related to base repair and then the contingency itself. Along that line, in the 2021 budget discussion, Borough Council wanted us to make sure we address the Graham Boulevard and the Kingsdale Road storm sewer projects, and those 2 projects we're looking to advance, coming into this year, as well as the Collins Road Pump Station as a sanitary sewer project, and the Cammering work and other consent decree work related to the sanitary storm system. So again, when you think about the rate increase that was passed related to that, I think it's real important for taxpayers and ratepayers to understand we don't want to waste time this year and we want to get active in getting the shovels moving and getting these projects advanced. So that's what's before you. And if there are any questions, I'm sure that Krista and Dennis can answer. And I think Ralph's watching online with via Facebook, so he might even text me if he gets a question that I can't answer.
Ralph made the key decision to not be able to ask questions from us, but only to be able to ask questions to us. So, so any discussion on this issue? I know we've talked about it in the budget time. Again, I would just reemphasize when we talked about the mill and the purpose for it. This was the reason that we're doing this. We are still have a lot of work to do, but this is what with the increase, at least we can afford to do these jobs. And for the people on Woodland Hills Drive, I will just say that back before we had increased it under Garrett Drive, which is another long road, we only got to get half done at a time on my road because we didn't have the funds to do the whole road. So just the FYI in that space. Any other discussion that you guys want to have on the proposed either streets to be paved or on the sanitary and storm sewer projects?
Now, I just want to add, Jay, that Ralph may be listening, but he's basically been up all weekend fighting the snow. So
I know, right? Again, that's in my my kind of round the table space. But since you brought it up, I always allude to the fact that when I talk to people in the city and other spaces, I'm always like, what do you mean there's a problem with the roads? Right? The roads are clear. I look out the window. My roads are spotless. What are you talking about? And it's thanks to the crew that we've got and to Ralph's oversight of it. So I'll just leave that there. Anything else on this issue? All righty. So we're going to move on to the next issue on here, which I believe is number 11, if you want to pull it back up, so people can see what I'm talking about. And so just to let you know, this will get, I think, pushed into the management committee space. I had spoken a little bit with Krista and Alex, and it's basically that we've got some off-cycle bills that pop up, and how do we going to address those so that we don't have either late fees or some other issues popping up? And I think it's best to send that into committee, but it's definitely something that both in the oversight space, we want to make sure we have proper oversight so that off-cycle bills don't go without oversight, while still allowing for that space when it's relevant. So unless there's some dying need for conversation, I'm going to push that into in the management committee space.
Jay, I'd like to also meet with Valerie, Adam, as part of the finance committee to discuss this too, the process of reviewing the bills. I'll try to line up something for later on this week. Unless Valerie and Adam, are you okay with that?
Yeah, that
Yeah,
works.
that works for me. Sorry.
Okay.
Point well made. Point well made. I think with so many of these things, it operates in more than one space, so that makes good sense. Then what do I've got next? Then we've got clarifying.
You want to circle back to number 10?
Sure.
Okay.
What do we what am I missing on my 10 here? It is it's the one-liners that get me, Alex. It's the one-liners that get me. And I know I see the mayor there going like, are you trying to skip my stuff? Is that what you're trying to do?
I'm watching.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So conversation about signage being added to the roadways. So that falls again into committee, but I know that it's something that the mayor had a concern about as well. So I don't know if you want to kind of open with any conversation about it, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, and the more I think about it, the litter it's not just a problem in church, but everywhere. But some of our main concerns are, and I would say there's state roads and the county roads. Basically, the entrances and exits off the parkway are places that we regularly clean and get lots of garbage. So is there some way that we can get the state involved in, securing some signage for those places? I'm not sure if it absolutely 100% works, but just to have those reminders up there with increased fines for littering. The corner of Beulah and William Penn, there are so many cigarette butts laying on that road. It's disgusting. How can we have sign? I don't know how to do it, but at least we can explore that some way. How can we improve it?
So let me take a second to think that through a bit, because I think it's very real. The need, the question that I have is it's a county road to state road space that we tend to run into. So what's the best vehicle no pun intended in that, to address this in terms of getting signage? There's a space in which we can talk to some of our reps to try and push that. I think that tends to be the easiest route when they're on board. It tends to make things, the red tape moves a little quicker.
Sure.
It's particularly in the state space, because we have a decent amount of quality leverage having Senator Costa as our state senator. He's been able to move things. So the first thought I have is in the kind of government relations space, we certainly can take that end of it. Are there other thoughts in terms of ways of addressing the signage space, particularly on state and county roads? Because that's really where the bulk, if I'm hearing what I see, of kind of the major littering. Not that we don't have bags and other stuff, and God bless y'all, because I see the same folks who are on this call go for their walks, and I appreciate when I see you all walking and picking stuff up, and I know that you do it regularly, and I cannot extend enough appreciation to that, just as kind of a side note. But if there are other thoughts on how to address this, I'm all ears right now.
Hey, Jay, how about enforcement? I mean, state troopers sat at the off ramp while people are driving by and started fining people for throwing garbage out.
So enforcement is definitely the deterrent. I don't know that I can get a state trooper to stay. So it's a question of to be quite honest in terms of our resources again, and in terms of our manpower, right? One of the realities when we talk about our police department is we spend much of our time on single man shifts. And so it does limit some of that. And it's been a constant difficulty for us, both not just in the littering space, but in the speeding space, and because we don't have the manpower to do the kind of sit and regularly kind of get all the spots. That's not to say that just a few good enforcement actions can motivate the crew when people realize that it's a real potential.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a good suggestion. I think it's one that we can talk to the chief about how that works and how that would operate in terms of enforcement for littering. And then it's a question of what the fine is and making it within our space to fine.
Well, excuse me, Jay. Another thought is, and I know I read somewhere, probably in the Borough magazine, where they were using the cameras to monitor the areas. So it's really, you can't ask a trooper to sit there, or our own department, but you set the cameras up, and that would catch someone tossing stuff out. Because what I've seen, my experience with garbage or litter, is that people are throwing out bags when they leave that fast food place. They're eating that stuff in their car and probably having a beer with it as well, because all that stuff is stuffed into a bag and it's chucked out the window. It's not an accidentally, it blew out of my car. But if there were a camera strategically placed somewhere that could monitor that, and then, after a 24, 48, 72-hour period, you pull that out, you take a look at it, and you see if you can catch a plate number off of someone who did it. That's just another thought.
So again, and we'll put this in the committee. I think it's a great thought. I think it brings up a couple other questions for us. As it turns out, that would require something we don't have.
Yeah.
Cameras, and also kind of ordinances around cameras.
Mm-hmm.
Would also be necessary. I'm assuming to find someone via camera is probably not the same. I look to the solicitor, and he's making the face. That's his affirming face. If anybody wants to know, when Gavin does the there you go. That's what I like to see, the nod. So it is. There are several steps involved in that. But I like that a lot. I think it's something that can address, particularly in the littering space, right? Like, I mean, come on, man.
Even in our own Bullock's Pen Park, the litter down there along McCready, and people who use Bullock's Pen Park as a dump.
Right. Yeah. No, I fully agree.
Hey, I have just one other thought on that, and I don't know if this would be something we could do. But the stretch of parkway really that's of a concern here goes all the way back from pretty much Monroeville through the tunnels. So is there a way we could work with other municipalities, Penn Hills, Edgewood, and anyone else who has the same problem right along the parkway? Maybe, enforcement in one area would help enforcement in all the areas along the parkway.
So I'm always open to the idea of trying to figure out how we can work with our neighbors. I think the key challenge is that we're coming off of a kind of a state or federal highway, for that matter, and so how we turn that into kind of local enforcement will be its own challenge. But again, I think that's why we place this into and let me sort where we'll put it in committee and see what comes back from it. I think is ideal at this time. But I appreciate a good conversation about it, and see a short sentence turns into probably the best conversation of the meeting. So, okay, and so we're now moving. This is what happens when you throw me off, Alex. Now I don't know where we are on the agenda. So now it's on you. I'm just riding along now.
12.
12 is the answer. So you get to jump in and tell me where we're going with this, Alex, on the underwriter.
Okay, so basically, there's an issue when houses get inspected. Often they have some very minor things to remedy, but yet they have not given themselves enough time to remedy those or to get back for a reinspection. So from time to time, we are being asked, or there's a necessity to have a temporary to close permit, which puts the burden on meeting those needs on both the seller and the buyer so that they can close on time. So we just need some help before we, with a committee to work this out, to get something we can present to council so that everybody can live with the amending to our code or whatever we would need to do to carry that out. Is that good, Krista?
I think the only thing I would add to that is that the purpose of the occupancy inspection is to ensure safe structures within the borough. So one thing in that temporary to close process is that sometimes these are left open, and we've done our best to control these, but they're much a variable in the conversation. So we're trying to eliminate that variable by creating applications and permits that are very clear and easy to understand, not only the application, but the permit and the process itself.
So sometimes these things are best handled by the professionals. I have this guy that the whole borough puts tax money into to pay, as it turns out. And I'd like him to weigh in on this space real quick, since we're all paying the guy.
So, I mean, it's certainly a process I'm familiar with from other municipalities. I'm not exactly sure the mechanics as to how it works in Churchill, but I can work with Alex and Krista and maybe even borrow some legislation from a comparable community, so that we're not starting from scratch on this. And then hopefully we can get this, if it needs to go to a committee before it goes to council, that's fine. But I think I can put a draft together and work with the staff here and get something ready for you.
I think that's what needs to happen here is, if you can put it together, council can take a look, and then we can move it forward. As it turns out, the tax dollars need to be used for the benefit of the folks, not for that trip to Disney World that you're still planning. So I would greatly appreciate it. All right, that moves us on to more code, right?
That is correct. Number 13 deals with the idea of to really get at the issue of water infiltration into the sanitary sewer system that we're a part of, known as Elkasan. We really have one area where we see the most amount of water, and that is in the private lateral lines from homes to the public sewer transmission. So again, an issue that many communities in Allegheny County have tackled, which is to put it as a part of what we would have at the point of sale with the occupancy permit. Right now, we have a dye test, for example, where people have to prove to us that they're not running their storm drains into the sanitary sewer system, which again would overflow into the rivers really here in the county. So in this case, this would be for the sanitary side, where at the point of sale, home sellers would have to have their laterals inspected. If the laterals are fine, no expense. If the lateral needs repaired, that would be borne by the seller. Obviously, it could be recouped at point of sale. This way, which is a best practice, homes that maybe haven't had their laterals inspected in decades would, and it would show over time that the infrastructure within the borough is kept up to date.
What you're talking about, Alice, is a camera test then, not a simple dye test.
Yeah, there's various, I mean, there's more precise information on it, but yeah, they would be cameraing the house lateral to the public line.
Kevin, what's your feel on this as a in your committee? I mean, it'll sit in your committee and the solicitor, so I'm going to go to both. What's your feel on this as mandate? In fact, let's start with the guy we pay again, and we'll come back around. Guy we pay.
You know, I was talking to Alex a little bit about this today. Certainly, we have some municipal clients who do require this. I mean, obviously, you know, there's occasionally pushback. You have a property owner who uncovers a very expensive repair in connection with the sale of their property, and they obviously get pretty upset about it. But to Alex's point, it probably is a best practice. I'm sure the engineers would highly recommend it. I think it helps with our compliance with the overall consent order and environmental regulations that the borough is subject to. So, you know, it's not a requirement at this point from a statutory standpoint, I don't believe. And so, again, I think it probably is a good plan overall because it does improve that infrastructure and maintains the existing infrastructure. But in a place like Churchill, where I imagine you have some pretty old terracotta pipes, you know, there's going to be a lot of repairs that are going to be associated with property sales. So I think that's the other side of it you have to weigh.
Yeah, I agree. It's a best practice. I'd like to get a survey of the surrounding boroughs and what they're doing. I believe Chalfont requires it. I believe in a real estate transaction, a buyer can request such a test and they usually comply. So it's not that they can refuse to do it or anything, but anyways, I'd like to take a look at it and see what the other communities are doing. I know there'll be some pushback, so we ought to study it a little bit.
You win, you nominate yourself and you win it. It falls squarely in your own committee. So
okay.
You'll get all the opportunity to look at it that you'd like. That's that on that space. Diane,
I know that.
I've served with Kevin on the Borough Sewer Committee for 8 years now. And one of the things that I've learned in that process is about the EPA consent decree, which is costing people enormous amounts of money, all of watching our sewer bills go up and our water bills go up. It's all about, you know, the antiquated system that we're all operating on. As Alex said, there's an enormous amount of what we're trying to stop that is coming basically outside of those lateral lines because of breaks in the lines and so on between the house and the street. If we don't do something like that, if municipalities don't take the responsibility to address this and to do what we can to see to it that those damages are repaired, we're all going to continue to pay an enormous amount of money. I think also doing this will have another impact. And that impact is that if you know that if you want to sell your house, that you're going to have this camera work done on your lateral before you can sell your house, that's going to provide you with an incentive to have the camera work done on your property every 5 years or whatever. So if you start to see some damage to your pipes, you have an opportunity to fix it then, instead of waiting until it gets worse and is going to cost you more if you want to sell the house. So I'm very much in favor of this program. Hope we can make it happen.
So, and I know, Matt, you were going to speak.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I know Monroeville requires it. And, you know, on a personal note, after having done some real estate investment and been burned on this before, I always do it now. I'm glad to see when boroughs, you know, make it be part of the process, because ultimately, you know, it's like any other part of a home that we own. we don't maintain it, and then a new seller moves into the borough and gets burned on that, it's tough. So I think it's a good thing. I think it, accomplishes a lot for the environment and the other stuff, but it also helps protect buyers as they're moving into the borough and, make sure that it's equitable between the sales process.
Since this isn't a committee in fact, I remember when I first came on council and I was told the sewer committee, I was like, I'm going to pass on that one. And mostly because I knew what the, and this is over a decade, but I knew what the workload was for the sewer committee, right? Having said that, I would simply point out as, to the committee as you start to take a look at this, that the pushback in the long run would be from the people who have decided to leave. And the people protected in this would be the people who have decided to come. So just something to think about is as you look at this. That's my own kind of side note. Okay, is there any other discussion on that issue? That moves us to the zoning hearing board vacancy, to which I will look to my longtime friend there. Diane, I lost you. If there's any comments you want on the zoning hearing board vacancy, because I look to you for that space generally. You're saying the most important thing we all need to know, and yet you're muted and we'll never know what it is.
Unmute. Yes. Okay. Seconds. Anyway, we have a zoning hearing board, and we have chosen at some point in the past to only have 3 people on that board. So at this point, the person who had been the chair of that board has moved into a position on the Churchill Planning Commission. So we have a vacancy on the zoning hearing board, and we are interested in hearing from citizens who would be interested in serving on that board. I would encourage you to contact Alex and to have a discussion with him about what that entails, and both in terms of time and in terms of what you would need to know in order to serve in that capacity. So this is kind of we're considering a number of projects here at this point. So this is not something that we can delay for, another couple of months. We're looking at trying to find someone here in another couple of weeks. So please think about it, talk to your neighbors, and have them or you get in touch with Alex to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dan. I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but I know you've been pushing to make sure to keep those two boards filled, the commission and board. So, and there's not a more important time than now in probably, the modern history of Churchill to make sure that we have competent people in those spaces. Any other comments from council on that particular issue?
Yeah, I have a question. Has that been posted on like social media as well, like LinkedIn and all those things?
That's a great question. We have it updated on our website, and that enables me to go ahead before the end of this meeting and post them on both of those sites. So great idea, Valerie. Thank you.
Yep, thanks.
Cool. Anything else on that one? All right, floor opens up for council and staff. Anything that people need to comment on? Anything you want to bring up? Kind of new business space. Or you're all just trying to think about how you get out of this meeting.
Did you discuss number 14 on the agenda?
So the agenda changed and number 14 was removed just simply because
I'm sorry.
yeah, there's a lot more thought that needs to go into that.
Okay.
I think for me, Jay, while I'm speaking, I just want to remind people there will be a meeting on Wednesday for the Planning Commission at 7 p.m. People will use the same link that they use to participate in this meeting, the Zoom link. And Lord willing, we will be able to stream it on Facebook Live for others who just want to watch and aren't necessarily looking to have their faces seen or to comment. Thank you.
Any other comments from folks on council? Anything? I have a couple, so I'm kind of, I like to go last and allow people to say whatever they'd like to say so I don't influence.
I just have one thing, if I can just interject really quickly for
course
those that are in the audience this evening. We discussed the tax millage increase, and we understand that the handful of individuals that are in the Zoom call this evening are aware of that increase, but in efforts to increase communication with residents, we did send out a postcard regarding any increases that are coming up here in the future in regards to the real estate tax increase, as well as the sewer surcharge fee increase. That's been, this is not only to make sure that residents are aware of this in advance of the increases, but also to give you ample time financially to prepare for them, at least a month in advance, as well as reach those that do not have access to the internet or choose to not use the internet. So we wanted just to let you know, keep an eye out for that in the mail. You should be expecting that sometime in the upcoming week.
Outstanding. Diana, so you're unmuted.
I am unmuted. I just would like to say that I am so impressed with the collaboration that's going on between the Churchill Tree Committee and the school district, and the fact that Churchill is going to be contributing in a major way to the beautification of the school properties and the Woodland Hills School District, not just in Churchill, but the attempt is going to be made at all of the schools. I think that that's something that is a good public relations effort for the borough, and it's being borne by the Tree Committee. So I just wanted to express the fact that I'm very, very appreciative for their work.
All righty. Anybody else have any other comments before I close this out and let us all go home? All right, one last just comment I want to bring up in terms of this space. So I spoke with Alex and Krista today. This is a very difficult time for a lot of our residents. It's been a tough year. And now we're in this vaccine space where it feels like, and I think Krista put it best, that it felt like trying to get, concert tickets on Ticketmaster, when you're calling in. My time was calling in and her time was logging in, I suppose. So, but trying to get a hold of that. We're going to send over to committee, but I talked with Alex and Krista about trying to figure out what we can do. And I think Churchill's a special place. I think we care about our residents. So there's going to be a group of residents that we probably have, particularly that are seniors, that don't know how to get the vaccine, who need the vaccine, who don't know how to log in, who don't know where to go. And so we're gonna refer that over to committee to start looking at, in a very short term, how we can assist folks, how we can assess who may need assistance, and what we can do to try and ensure that all of our residents are vaccinated. This feels very Wild West right now. As it turns out, Pennsylvania is one of the worst states in the country. It's rolling out this vaccine right now, and Allegheny County is one of the worst counties in Pennsylvania. So we're not doing it right. We have a lot of people here who are in need. We are an older, I shouldn't say, I don't want to do myself. We're an older community. A lot of new families are moving in, but we still have a lot of seniors who need assistance. And I think there is nothing shows kind of the Churchill kind of mindset more than our neighbors looking to help out our neighbors. So that's what's kind of on one of the things on our agenda. And I know that really my conversation with Krista and Alex, they're really committed to that space too. And it was impressive to know that our staff has that kind of commitment to our residents. So that's it for me. Yep.
Jay, could I add just one thing to that? From my understanding, our police department and volunteer fire department have not been vaccinated either. So I would like to try to get them vaccinated as well. So,
Kevin, if it gives you any hope, just so you know, Alex and myself had to be put on that list because we have such close contact with them. Mm-hmm. And we were just called, I was just called to set an appointment. So that's in the works. So it's closer than I think. And some of the officers have been vaccinated. So you just had to update on that.
Thanks, Krista.
But your point is really well taken, and it tells you the nature of just how disorganized this process is. Quite frankly, our officers are, I know people who are getting vaccinated who probably should be further on down the line, right? And I know people who are desperate for vaccination who have no idea where to get it. So we're going to try and look at it, see how we can help our citizens and make sure that the residents of Churchill know that we've got their back. So that's it. If there's nothing else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Let's say if nobody says it, we stay here all night.
Second.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
All right. Game, set, match. Thank you all very much. Have a safe week, and I will talk to y'all later.
Thank you.
Good night, all.
Good
Yeah.
night.
Week.
See ya.